There is a moment in every man's life when the world whispers one question: do you still believe? It doesn't ask you that when things are easy. It asks when you're broken, when your back is against the wall, when every door seems locked, and every dream feels like a foolish fantasy. That's when belief isn't optional anymore. It becomes your weapon, your fire, your last line of defense against a world built to test you. Every great life, every empire, every invention, every revolution started with a single person who refused to surrender their belief. Edison didn't have more resources. Ford didn't have more luck. Carnegie didn't have more time. What they had was belief so relentless, so consuming, that it burned through rejection, failure, and ridicule until the world finally bent to their vision. That's what belief does. It bends the world. The weak call it luck. The strong call it faith. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. It's the invisible force that shapes reality. The moment you decide that something must happen, not should, not could, but must, you unleash the hidden power that has driven every success story in history. Belief is not fantasy. It's not blind hope. It's an inner contract, a vow with yourself that says, I will not stop until this becomes real. When your belief is shallow, life tests you, and you crumble. But when your belief is relentless, life tests you, and you rise. Most people never understand this. They live in reaction, not creation. They measure their belief by what they can see. The strong measure it by what they decide. You see, belief is not seeing the path, it's knowing the destination. It's not waiting for certainty, it's creating certainty. When every voice says, you can't, the believer says, watch me. The weak stay broke, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack conviction. They pray for signs instead of producing results. They wait for motivation instead of mastering discipline. But belief, real belief, doesn't wait for permission. Commands progress. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a man standing alone in the dark. No applause, no guarantees, just a dream that won't die. That man is dangerous, because nothing can stop someone who's already decided they will win. That's the essence of relentless belief. It's the calm beneath chaos, the fire beneath fear, the vision that refuses to fade even when the night gets longer. When Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times, people mocked him. He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's belief. When Abraham Lincoln lost election after election, faced depression, and buried his children, he still rose to lead a nation. That's belief. When Henry Ford said he would build a car the average man could afford, experts called him insane. He called it destiny. That's belief. History doesn't remember the doubters. It remembers the believers. Because belief turns weakness into wisdom, failure into foundation, and pain into power. It transforms ordinary men into unstoppable creators. But here's the secret most never learn. Belief alone is not enough. It must be relentless. You can't believe only on good days. You must believe on every day. The cold days, the quiet days, the days where nothing seems to move. That's when belief earns its value. History doesn't remember the doubters. It remembers the believers. Because belief turns weakness into wisdom, failure into foundation, and pain into power. It transforms ordinary men into unstoppable creators. But here's the secret most never learn. Belief alone is not enough. It must be relentless. You can't believe only on good days. You must believe on every day. The cold days, the quiet days, the days where nothing seems to move. That's when belief earns its value. When Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he didn't write Wish and Grow Rich. He understood that success begins in the mind long before it manifests in the world. Belief builds momentum. Momentum builds action. Action builds destiny. If you want to rise, if you want to change your life, you must first change your belief about what's possible for you. Because no strategy, no plan, no motivation can help a man who secretly doubts himself. You cannot attract what you don't expect. You cannot expect what you don't believe. And you cannot believe halfway. Because belief is not a switch, it's a state of being. You either are or you aren't. The man who believes halfway will live halfway. But the man who believes fully, relentlessly, will rise beyond logic, beyond circumstance, beyond fear. So ask yourself, what do I believe about myself when no one's watching? What do I whisper to myself when everything falls apart? That is your truth. And that truth is shaping your entire life. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe you deserve. Belief without discipline is a spark without oxygen. It glows for a moment and then it dies. But belief with discipline, that's fire. That's what forges nations, builds empires, and reshapes destiny. The world is filled with people who believe they deserve success, but only a few who prove it through relentless discipline. Because discipline is belief in motion. It's faith translated into daily action. It's the proof that your dreams aren't just ideas, they're decisions. Every morning you rise before the world does, you're voting for your belief. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, you're proving that you trust your vision more than your emotions. That's the foundation of greatness. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance, but unshakable, disciplined belief. You see, most people don't fail because their dream is impossible. They fail because their discipline collapses before the dream manifests. They can't stay loyal to their vision during the drought. They want harvest without the planting, reward without the grind. But the strong, the ones who build legacies, they understand that every repetition, every small effort, every unseen hour of work is proof of belief. Think of Edison again, laboring in his lab night after night, failing thousands of times. He didn't believe once, he believed through. Ford didn't build his automobile empire because he had money, he had faith in motion. He was told his idea was impractical. He was told it couldn't be done. And when his engineers said, impossible, Ford said, do it anyway. That's relentless belief. Relentless belief is not optimism. It's obsession. It's the quiet, unshakable conviction that what you're working toward will exist, and that every hardship is merely a test of endurance. Ask yourself, when the dream becomes hard, do you still show up? When the results are invisible, do you still move forward? When the world doubts you, do you still believe? Because the world rewards those who remain faithful to their vision even in silence. Most people wait for confidence before taking action, but confidence is born from action. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself. That's what discipline is, self-trust in motion. The moment you say, I'll do this, and you follow through, your belief grows. The moment you say, I'll wake up early, and you rise before the sun, your belief strengthens. And soon that belief becomes armor. The world can doubt you, mock you, reject you, but you remain untouchable because your discipline is louder than their disbelief. Belief makes you dream. Discipline makes you real. The world is drowning in dreamers and starving for doers. Everyone talks about vision. Few are willing to bleed for it. Everyone wants success. Few want the price. But Napoleon Hill said it best. Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. Desire is the flame. Faith is the fuel. Discipline is the engine that carries it forward through every storm. When you combine all three, the universe has no choice but to yield. That's the law of creation, thought, faith, and persistence. It's not philosophy, it's physics. You are a magnet. Every thought you hold with emotion begins to pull its physical counterpart toward you. But here's the catch, the magnet only works when it stays charged. Doubt discharges it. Fear drains it. That's why relentless belief must be protected like sacred fire. Surround yourself with people who believe in growth, not gossip. Feed your mind with wisdom, not noise, because your environment either strengthens your faith or poisons it. Belief is contagious, so is doubt. You must choose which one you'll let infect you. If you want to rise, protect your inner world. Wake up every morning and feed your mind with your vision before the world feeds it with fear. Remind yourself, I was not born to live small. I was born to build something eternal. You must believe until belief becomes identity. When your belief fuses with who you are, success is no longer an outcome, it's a side effect. You don't chase wealth. You attract it. You don't force opportunity. You create it. You don't beg for confidence. You become it. Because belief doesn't just change your results, it changes you. The man who believes he can becomes someone who can. The man who doubts himself becomes someone who won't. You're not just living your circumstances. You're living your convictions. So, if your reality isn't what you want, stop trying to fix the outside, strengthen your belief on the inside. Because the outside is only a mirror of what you've decided to accept. Everything begins twice, first in the mind, then in the world. Every empire, every invention, every revolution was once nothing but a thought believed with conviction. That's how destiny works. You don't stumble into greatness. You design it through the architecture of belief. Close your eyes for a moment and picture your future. Not the one that seems possible, but the one that seems unrealistic. Because that's where your soul lives, in the space between who you are and who you're meant to become. The people who changed history were not practical. They were visionaries who refused to negotiate with their limitations. Walt Disney saw castles before there was concrete. The Wright brothers saw wings before there was flight. Napoleon Hill saw wealth of mind before anyone understood its power. Vision is the language of the future, and belief is the translator that turns it into reality. But here's the truth. Most people lose the battle before they even start. They spend more time doubting their dream than defining it. They allow uncertainty to blur the picture of what could be. And when the picture fades, so does the drive. Clarity is power. Without clarity, your energy scatters. Without belief, your clarity fades. But when the two align, clarity and belief, your mind becomes a laser. You start attracting what matches your mental picture. Not because of magic, but because of focus. The human mind is a magnet for whatever it obsesses over. You become what you think about, talk about, and act upon with emotion. That's not poetry, that's psychology. When you see your vision so vividly that it feels real before it's real, your subconscious begins to work in silence. It seeks opportunities, people, and resources that match your belief. And the world begins to rearrange itself around your conviction. That's why belief must be specific, not vague. Not I want success, but I am building wealth through my purpose. Not I hope to be happy, but I live with peace, power, and gratitude. The universe doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to clarity with emotion. And clarity requires courage. Because to define your vision is to expose your vulnerability. When you declare what you truly want, you risk judgment, ridicule, rejection. But you must risk it because the alternative is worse. Dying with your vision unspoken. Your dream isn't meant to be logical. It's meant to be lived. Logic builds safety. Vision builds empires. So stop asking if your dream is possible. Ask if it's worth your life's energy. Because once you decide that it is, possibility stops being the question. Once the mind accepts a definite purpose, belief takes over, and the impossible begins to bend. Think about it. Every mountain that's ever been moved was moved by someone who refused to accept that it couldn't be. Every breakthrough began with defiance, with a mind that said, "Watch me." That's what relentless belief does. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for proof. It creates its own evidence through perseverance. You can have the most detailed vision board, the best plan, and the greatest idea, but without belief, it's just decoration. Belief is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. So build your vision in your mind first. See it, feel it, speak it until it becomes your language. Let every cell in your body know where you're going. When your inner world is aligned with your purpose, the outer world has to follow. That's the law of cause and effect, the same principle that Napoleon Hill built his philosophy on. Thoughts become things. But most people never see this power because they keep rewriting their blueprint every time they face resistance. One day they believe, the next day they doubt. One day they're inspired, the next they quit. But a true believer doesn't rewrite the vision, they rewrite themselves until they match it. They evolve, they adapt, they endure. The vision doesn't get easier, you get stronger. And one day, what once felt impossible becomes ordinary. What once terrified you becomes your new normal. Because relentless belief doesn't just change your circumstances, it transforms your identity. And once your identity rises, your destiny follows. You are not chasing success. You are becoming the person success cannot ignore.